G'day guys, welcome back to SuperCoach with DR and welcome to the first installment of the SuperCoach Stock Market videos for 2021. We're back bigger and better than ever this year. We do have 2 extra columns. I said that I was going to try to improve it from the end of last year and I have tried to do that. I'm now giving you the projected score for each player each week, and I think the other big bonus is the projected price increase for each player each week. So hopefully you enjoy that, and if you are new to the channel, firstly, thank you very much for joining me. I do really appreciate the support. What we do each week in the stock market video is we basically look for those must trade in options, those must trade out options, and take a good look at each player's break even and how likely they are to either keep their price, go up in price, or what we don't want is for players in our starting team anyway to go down in price. So I have included some extra symbols this week. Like usual, I have the buy it now, the best buys, the traps, the pods, but I've also got the seagull symbol and the safe as houses symbol. Those players that we can simply select in our sides without having to worry too much. So I've probably jabbered on already. Let's get straight into it. You know where we start off. So as usual, we'll start off with the defenders 500k and over. As I mentioned before, there are 2 new columns that I've got here. We'll quickly go through all the headings up above. We've obviously got the name, price, average, the break even. For anyone that is new to the game, remember the break even is the score that that player must achieve in order to keep their price. We've got their projected score as well, which is one of the new columns here. Remember, this is a projected score for the upcoming round, not their projected average for the rest of the year. And then we've obviously got the projected price rise as well, which I think will be really, really handy. And keep in mind that that projected price rise is based off that projected score there. And you may agree with that projected score, or you may make some other projections of your own as well. For example, well, we'll start with Jordan Ridley, who I am really considering bringing into my side this week. He's got an average of 131, really healthy, particularly for a defender, 557,700 with a 60 break even. Now, he's got a projected score of 104. Now, I'd be pegging that at least 115, I think. So that projected price rise of 19,500 may even be a little bit modest. So I've got him as my best buy for this week. Why is that? Well, apart from the fact that he will be looking to go up in price, I think he's close to a must-have defender this year. He just looks really good down back. We know with Essendon's injury toll and their list in general, really, that they won't win too many games of football. The ball should be down in Essendon's backline a fair bit of the time, and he takes all of the kickouts, Jordan Ridley. He's an elite user of the ball, kicks it long, and just 3 points every week for Jordan Ridley, as well as his intercepting ability as well. So I really like him this week. Easily, I think, the best buy from our premium defenders. Next on the list, we've got Callum Mills, 544,800 with a 124 average, break even of 72. Well, he came down to earth a little bit after his massive 150 last week. He does share that awkward buy with Seagull and a few other of our favourite premium defenders, but he's still looking to increase his price by over 20,000. But he's got that projected score of 124. Again, you may agree or disagree with that, but he's certainly a pod that you could look to bring into your side. Jaden Short, the next man on the list, he'll set you back under 520k, so pretty good value there for 110 average, break even of 84. I'd pretty much agree with this projected score of around 115, and I think that this bloke is a buy now. He doesn't need a lot of the ball to score well, because we know when he gets the ball, he kicks it well, and he kicks it long, as I mentioned in my review video as well. So he's been a great starting pick for me up to this stage, Jaden Short, and I do recommend, if you're looking for another premium defender, to bring him in if you've already got Ridley. He could be a real pod for you as well, looking to go up just above 2 grand. Crisp had a really nice game last week, actually looking to play through the midfield now, so I like that move from Buckley. And I remember at the time when Brisbane lost Jack Crisp, they were experimenting with him as a big-bodied inside midfielder for the last sort of 5-6 games of the season, I think, from memory. So he could be a bit of a pod option, but again, it's got that really awkward buy with May and Mills as well. Rory Laird, you've just got to have this man, I think. He'll be Mr. Consistent there. You can see on the notes section, I've got safe as houses. That's a new symbol that I've got there. And I've got the same for Tommy Stewart as well. A little bit disappointing last week, going around that 83, I think it was. But I still think he's going to be a really safe pick. And around that 80 mark will be his floor, I think. Jeremy Howe, always worried about his durability. Not a huge fan of this pick. Sard, not really as a pod. Daniel, he was really disappointing for owners because I was really big on Caleb Daniel and I really wanted to find a way to start this bloke in my side. But I'm glad that I didn't at this stage because that low score from last week will keep his price around that sort of low to mid 500 mark, I think, for a little while. Luke Ryan, well, he hasn't had the best start to the year, particularly with that starting price. I was never a huge fan of this starting pick. The Seagull, Jake Lloyd, he'll probably lose a little bit of money, but I think he'll be a really great selection for us this year. And Braden Maynard, so if you selected him, you would have obviously selected him as a pod in your side, but I think this bloke is close to being on the chopping block. Now, you don't want to be too reactionary with, these premium trade outs early on in the season, but if he's looking to lose about 40 grand and you've got someone, for example, like a Jordan Ridley at 557,700, you're paying 8 grand more for a must-have pick, I think. So, look, depending on what else you've got to do with your side, if you haven't got some of the must-have rookies, you'll have to fix them up first before looking at Maynard. But if you're one of the few owners that does have a Braden Maynard, yeah, I would be a little bit worried. Onto the defenders, 200 to 500k. So my man up the top, CJ. Well, I can't really call him my man because I wasn't on him at all during the preseason, but he's my new favourite player at Hawthorn, I think. Just super exciting to watch, and I think this guy has a really, really bright future. What I love seeing is young players really taking on the game, and I think that's what CJ is going to base his game off this season. So he'll set you back 266,500, an average of 94 now. Did hit the ton this week and also hit the ton in one of the preseason matches from memory as well. So I don't know if this is necessarily going to be a flash in the pan. Well, the average 94, I probably don't think so, but maybe around that 80 average, I think maybe safe for CJ. Break even of negative 32, projected score of 67. He'll be going up around 40k if he can hit 67, which I think is a pretty modest projected score from what we've seen from him so far this year. Now, Dougal Howard, the new kick-out king, I should have probably had the seagull symbol on him, to be quite honest, but he's a pod, 355,000. He'll make you some really good money in the short term, but I'm a little bit worried that he does rely on those kick-ins a little bit too much for mine. Isaac Cumming, well, he's been a pretty solid selection if you started him down back, but look, you should have probably gone CJ there, or when I say you should have probably gone, he's worked out as a much better pick up to this stage. Again, it's only 2 rounds though, so we've got to be careful when we're making predictions about these players. But Cumming, if you've got him, yeah, good. You wouldn't look to bring him into your side though. Same as Fantasia. If you got him, good, but don't look to bring him in. Markov now is an interesting one because, look, I said don't bring Cumming in. Obviously, he's cheaper with exactly the same average, but I just like the look of Markov a little bit better. But he's probably not a bloke at this price that you're looking to bring into your side. Maybe if you're trading a Lockie Neal and you're making a couple of 100k and you want to move up from, maybe you've even started with someone like a Jones from Port Adelaide, you could go up to a Markov. So there are reasons why you may be looking at defenders in this range, but for me, it's pretty dangerous, I think, bringing one of these blokes in. Jack Bowes, well, I do have the seagull symbol on him because he's averaging 130 at the moment. Break even of only 4, projected score of 100. He'll be going up about 42k if he can achieve that score. So I actually like the look of Bowes, but when I say I like the look of him, I haven't actually watched a game of Gold Coast really, to be quite honest, but looking at the numbers, reading up a little bit about him and his role over the last couple of weeks, I do like the Jack Bowes selection, but look, it's just too risky when you've got so many other better and safe options, I think. Now, Darcy Moore sent a tweet out, I think it was after quarter time last weekend, saying that I've criminally underrated this bloke as a SuperCoach selection because he looked really, really good. He's just such a smart player and just reads the ball extremely well, better than most players in the competition, to be quite honest. And look, the issue with Moore is that he does have that awkward bye. He will be prone to having a few stinkers, I think, here and there, but I think his floor will certainly rise from last year and the year before that. But look, a pretty risky pick. But if you're looking for an ultra pod, he's averaging 119 at the moment, has not put a foot wrong. You could do a lot worse than Darcy Moore if you are not loaded up on that round 14 bye. Hayden Young, well, yeah, break even of 15, average of 75, probably what owners were expecting, 75, maybe up to an 80, pushing an 85. So he's worked out okay for now, but not the greatest selection at this stage. Alir, he looks really exciting down there at Port Adelaide. Will he score well for the year? I'm not too sure, but he's been an ultra important trade-in for them. And as I said, really looking fantastic. I don't know how SuperCoach relevant he's going to be, though, but a nice price point there for his break-even. Hunter Clark as well had a really good first week, dropped off the second week. Probably not for me. Lukosius finds himself on a wing now. I think that's also a reason why Bose has increased his average as well. But look, for 430k, he's meant to be looking pretty good there. Average of 106, that break-even's only 40. Do you trade into this bloke this week? I'd probably recommend not to. I'd just keep the binoculars on him, as you can see there, and give him maybe 3 or 4 more weeks. And if he looks to be solidly averaging around that 100 to 105 mark, then sure, you could maybe look at him then. Houston, he was an ultra burn man for me last season, so I'm not going to go anywhere near this bloke, but that is my personal bias. Keep that in mind, because you look at that break even there, only a 49, so under a 50. He's averaging 119. Projected score of 108. He's looking to go up about 25k, but for me, he just burnt me. Look, I probably shouldn't hold that against him and look at it differently this year, but I just can't get past it myself. But yeah, he won't be a bad selection and could find himself easily in the top 10 for averages by the end of the season. Bailey Williams, a real pod type pick. I don't have the pod there. I should have had that there, but again, just too dangerous. Too many points to go around with the Dogs. Duday, yeah, I had him at some stage last year. Was looking like he could be my F6 before injury. But yeah, I'm not looking at him this year. Same as Rich. Really love him as a pick. If he took a few more of the kickouts over someone like a Birchall, and they do share it around a little bit at times at Brisbane. Chi can take the kickouts from here to there. Yeah, he'd be more of a realistic selection. Look, you could go for him if you like as an ultra pod, but probably not for me. Look, these pods in the back line, I just think are too risky when you've got so many proven and premium options that we can select around that 500k plus mark this year. Doherty, not a fan of him. I think he's a trap along with Duggan. I think they're both traps. Look, Doherty didn't look the worst. Look, he's averaging 90, but he's not going to be like the Sam Doherty of old. I think that's pretty certain now. Look, he can get a couple of scores around that 110 mark on his good day, but I think, to be honest, he'll hover around that sort of 90 mark for an average for the rest of the season, which won't be good enough, I don't think, for our defensive lines. And Duggan, yeah, I just didn't like this pick at all during the preseason. There's been a lot of talk about the fact that, look, he comes into the midfield, that average automatically increases. There was a few numbers from last year where he played through the midfield where he was looking okay, but a break-even of 136 with an average of 64. Yeah, look, I'd probably look to jump ship if you've got the luxury to do so, but if not, you're just going to have to cop this pick for a while and probably be a little bit disappointed, I think. And to end the defensive discussion, we'll look at those defenders under 250k. So not a lot of players on the list, but Tommy Highmore is clearly the best buy here. He's been a terrific selection for us. Now, I don't think there's many teams, to be honest, that don't have a Tommy Highmore in their starting side, but if you don't, he is a must-have in your defensive line. I think he's a great field. And to end the defensive discussion for this week, we'll take a look at some of those defenders under 250k. Not a lot of players on this list, to be quite honest, but the man up the top, Tommy Highmore, is clearly the best buy of the lot here. 117,300, averaging 69. He's an on-field option, a negative break-even of 68. Projected score, obviously, of that 69. And he's looking to go up 60k if he can reach that projected score. So if you don't have this bloke for some reason, get him in your side and you can rely on him to start on field each week, I think. Lockie Young got that DPP status there, just above 200k for an average of 76. Not too bad. Break even of negative 33. Looking to go up 40k if he can get his projected score of 58. But yeah, I don't know there's going to be a lot of people looking to buy him this week. But if for some reason you're looking for maybe that defensive mid-swing, then it could be someone that you look at over a Jordan Clark, for example. Kaczynski, 123,900, average of 46. He's doing probably what we expect him to do. Negative break even of 18. He's looking to go up around 30k if he can score 46 this week. And I think if you haven't got him, he's a buy now. Jordan Clark, 241,800. Was a little bit disappointed with this bloke last week. I did get to see him live, as I mentioned in my review video, but he's got a negative break even of 5. Projected score is 52. If he can do that, he goes up 25,000, but I think most of us are hoping he can get back to around that 80 mark, and if he does that, he'll be going up over 30k for this week. So Harry Sharp, now I'm worried about his job security as a Brisbane fan. He didn't play too well over the weekend, and look, there's a few players that didn't really put their hand up. You can't blame young Harry. Look, he's still a really young player, and I didn't expect him to even get a run this year, let alone in round 1 and 2. So congratulations for getting a couple of games, Sharpie. Really proud of your efforts so far, mate. But look, we certainly don't look to trade him out, I don't think. Look, if he doesn't play and you haven't got one of these other must-have rookies in either your defensive or your midline, because remember, he does have some of that DPP, then you maybe could look to trade him out. But if you're a non-owner, I probably wouldn't look to trade him in. Jordan Butts, again, you don't trade this bloke in, but he's got awesome job security. He'll be hopefully going up around that 250k mark. But again, you don't really buy this bloke. You probably just start with him for that job security. Nick Cox, now I've got the poo symbol there, but the job security is a tick. So I think he'll be a little bit of a dud rookie for us this year. But like Butts, you are getting that job security. So yeah, if you started with him, yeah, a bit of an off selection. But who knows, he can come out and possibly give you a nice score. And we'll end with Jack Buckley from GWS. Again, got that defensive mid status, 223,800. A break even of 39. Projected score of 62. Only an average of 46. Yeah. Don't look to go anywhere near this bloke, I don't think. On to the midfielders, 500k and over. The best buy for this week, in my opinion anyway, is Andy Brayshaw, 544,200. A massive average to start off the season with a 129. 62 for his break even, and he's looking to increase his price by about 25k. Why do I like this pick so much? Well, he was a real breakout contender for me last year, and didn't he really break out? I think this year he's even looking to take that next step now and take over that number 1 role in the midfield. I think he is their number 1 midfielder, Andy Brayshaw, at the moment. 5 his CBAs were right down over the weekend, and this bloke is looking to take over this year and into the future, I think. So I just love what he does. You know, that time on ground's up with Brayshaw now. He doesn't stop running. We know that he can be a little bit sloppy with his ball use at times, but I think that's slowly started to improve a little bit. So a lot to like about this pick. Looks still a little bit risky because we've never seen those uber elite numbers, but I think if anyone in the midfield is going to really break out this year, Andy Brayshaw is a man. Only a 2-game sample size, but I've really liked what I've seen so far from him. Trav Boak, another bloke that I probably underrated a little bit, mainly due to Father Time, but he's clearly Port Adelaide's best midfielder. A massive average to start off the season with a 140. He's still a pod, break even of 66. He'll be around that 630 to 650k mark, I'd assume, if he gets another decent score this week. And you could go a lot worse than Trav Boak if you're looking to maybe downgrade from someone like a Lachie Neale. Sam Walsh, I really like this bloke at his price point, 543,300. Is competing with Brayshaw for the number 1 breakout or uber breakout contender, I think, this year. He's averaging 114, break even of 91. He's looking to make a little bit of cash, and I've got a buy now on him as well. I think Brayshaw is probably the best buy, but I think he's also a good buy now at his price point. You know, 543k with an average of close to 115. I think that's pretty good for Sam Walsh. Andy McGrath, well, there's a few injuries in that Essendon midfield at the moment, but I don't know how that's going to affect McGrath. Does that mean that he needs to step up to the plate even more than he has? Does that mean he's going to get more attention? I'm not quite sure, so I wouldn't recommend to bring this bloke in, but he is a pod that you could look at. Tim Kelly, not interested in him. Tom Mitchell, I did bring this bloke into my side last week. He's a fantasy pig. We know what Titch can do. A break even of 113, projected score of 115. I'm hoping they can go a little bit higher than that. But with Titch, I don't think he'll really go below that sort of 570 mark. And I think he can easily push to that 650 to 670 mark if he really starts to hit his straps again. So big fan of Tom Mitchell. And he'll be in the top averaging midfielders this year without an absolute doubt. A bloke that I think will be in the top 2 averaging midfielders this year is Jack Macrae. I have a buy now on Jack Macrae because, look, I just love everything that I see from him. High CBAs, uses the ball pretty well. In crunch time over the weekend, it was that left foot pass, I think, across the body, just laced it out. Beautiful from Jack Macrae. He's got a great role on that side. A lot of points to be had there at the Bulldogs. They're a high possession type side, and Jack Macrae, I just think that there's so much to like about him. He's got that uber elite scoring history. We've seen him go around that 130 mark for a couple of years now. So I think if you're looking to get an uber elite midfielder into your side, Jack Macrae should be your number 1 option, in my opinion. Very, very closely followed by Clayton Oliver. I did skip the Bont. Look, with the Bont, I'd go Macrae over Bont personally, but yeah, I'd probably wait for him to have a bit of a stinker because he's prone to have those games in the 70s. So with Bont, I wouldn't be looking to trade him in the early part of the season. I'd wait until he has a stinker or two and get him at a discounted price, because you always can get the Bont at a discounted price at some stage. Clary Oliver, though, I think he'll be competing with Macrae for that number 1, number 2 midfielder spot by the end of the year. 656,700. I spoke a lot about this bloke in my round review video, so I won't go over all that stuff again, but just love this bloke in my side. He's a buy it now. So if you didn't start with Oliver, you've got someone like Macrae, and you are looking, and I'll use Lachie Neale as that example. We'll get to him in a minute. I think that this is a really logical selection to get someone like a Clary in. You're saving money on someone like a Neale. You're making about 70k going down to an Oliver. I think it really makes sense. A great selection by Oliver now if you're in that position. And Pendles, I thought I'd have to chuck the great man in there. Was a staple in our SuperCoach sides for years, but 107 average. I still think he's the best midfielder down there at Collingwood by a fair stretch, to be quite honest, but you don't look to get this bloke into your side. If you started with him for some reason, then, yeah, it's not going too great, but I suppose that you've started him because you love the man. And now we'll continue with the midfielders 500 plus, and you can see we're really starting to get into the red with the break-evens now. Patrick Cripps, you've got to have this bloke on the chopping block, only averaging 85 at the moment, break-even of 137. At the start of the season, I said, look, there's no way that this bloke will leak cash. He's got to go up because his average from last year, 97, surely he can't go around that mark. All of a sudden, 2 rounds in, I'm worried that he won't go above that 85 average. I think he's played 1 good half in 2 matches of football, and that was the first half of round 1. After that, he's just fallen off a cliff, and I've heard he's playing a little bit injured at the moment. That may be a reason for that average, but look, if you look at his 30-game sample size, and this is one thing that George mentioned early on the pre-season, which is a really, really good point, I think. His average is nothing special whatsoever, so don't just look at 2020. Take into account the last half of 2019 as well, and it doesn't paint a really pretty picture for Paddy Cripps. So if you've got him in your side, I think that he's someone that could be on the chopping block this week. Yeah, if you can afford to do it. Jared Lyons, he's a pod, won't talk too much about him. What do you do with Nat Fyfe? Well, yeah, it's tough because he's got a high break even there. We know that he's not going to be playing this week. It is the week of the price rises. We pretty much know, well, we don't know that he's going to go down because he's a player that can hit a 155 break even on his good day quite easily, Nat Fyfe. But look, it's up to you. Generally, you don't trade a premium out if they're only missing 1 week. But this is a different week due to the price rises. So, yeah, I'm not sure what my advice is for that. I'll leave it up to you. I didn't start with him because of this durability concern. Now, it's not his fault that he gets knocked out from Reed. I understand that, but he's just someone that gets injured, and that's why you just don't start with Nat Fyfe. So, yeah, unfortunate for owners, but, yeah, it's up to you what you do with him. Zach Merritt, again, I mentioned in my round review video that I didn't think he looked overly interested and wasn't giving his all to get to every contest and have a huge impact on the game. But, look, he's a disposal pig. 620,900 for, an average of 98 is certainly nothing to write home about, and pretty disappointed with that. But I'm not losing the faith in him yet. You certainly don't invest in him, but do not trade him out of your side yet. Keep the faith in Zach Merritt, I think. Jack Steele, 658,000, average of 107. So again, pretty disappointing from Steele. Again, there's no way in the world that we trade this bloke out. Kicked 3 goals over the weekend. But when I was watching the game, I did write down a couple of notes that I think 2 of those goals basically came from direct turnovers from the opposition. I know one of them, I think 4 defenders flew up for the ball. He was the only one that stayed down. And again, that's probably smart on his behalf, but really, you shouldn't have 4 defenders that are all flying for the ball and leaving a dangerous player like Steele out the back on his own. But yeah, I'd be not concerned with the pick, but disappointed starting him, I think, at that price of 658. Jelly, you just don't go near him as a starting pick due to that durability and a pretty poor average of 94. You know, the reason why I would start with him is because generally he'll average really, really well. And you may look at that average and think, well, that outweighs the risk of injury. But yeah, given the fact that his average is only a 94 and he's always going to have those durability concerns, yeah, hasn't been a good starting pick at this stage anyway. Again, only 2 rounds in, but with Fife and Kelly, I'm just not a fan of starting them on my side. Petrarca, yeah, well, a few people decided to go track over Clary. I could understand why. Had a superb year last year, but an average of 95 is a little bit concerning. Break even of 180. We keep him in our sides. We don't panic trade, but a little bit concerned. Taylor Adams, he'll be going down 44k if he gets his projected score of 84. Looked a lot better in week 2. In week 1, just looked absolutely terrible and a bit of a fake premium. And look, there's no way I'd bring this bloke into my side either, because he's got that awkward round 14 bye and his durability is always going to be a concern for the rest of his career. You can't be confident week to week that Taylor Adams is going to get up, so just wouldn't look at Adams. Gaff, extremely disappointing from him. Look at that average, 63. It always happens at some stage of the season we can get Gaff at a really, really cheap price, but even when he goes down, I wouldn't be looking to buy Andrew Gaff. Look, we need to see 2 to 3 weeks of 100 plus from Gaff before we even start to consider him. But I don't think many people have started him anyway, so not a great concern there. I've got to sell on him though if you have got him. And Lachie Neale, absolutely on the chopping block for me. Look, I was going to put sell there, but there are reasons to keep Lachie Neale. Look, you can keep the faith with him. Why did we select him? Well, we know what he's done in the past. We know what he's capable of. He's an absolute superstar, Lachie Neale. But for me, financially, it does make sense to get rid of Neale. So there are a number of options that, you know, that you can look at for someone like a Neale. Due to many of us having a lot of DPP swing in our sides, we can basically be trading Neale, obviously for a midfielder, a forward, or lots of us can also trade him for a defender as well. We've got Rory Laird, a Jordan Clark, some of our loopholes like a Fife will allow you to do that, and plenty of forward DPP options that we've got in our sides also. So, yeah, look, for me, as much as it kills me, and I did say this in my review video as well, it just makes sense to trade Lachie Neale, I think. I'm not going to wait for him to come good because I don't know how long I'll be waiting. Oh, look, I won't be surprised if he comes out next week and belts out a 160, but I'm not taking that risk. In my personal opinion, it is riskier holding Neale than it is trading him this week. And by trading Neale, I can go down to another premium defender in another line, and with the money that I make, I can look to upgrade a bit of a fake premium that I've got on my side also. So for me, in my personal opinion, Lachie Neale probably has to go this week. On to the midfielders, 200 to 500k, those mid-price options. I've just realised how long this video is going for. I need to go quicker. Apologies for that. I'll try to race through this a little bit more. So we start off with Vandermeer up the top. I think he's a bit of a trap, you know. He's got a break even of 4 with an average of 80, but there's so many points to be shared around there at the doggies. I just don't think you go anywhere near him. Drew does actually interest me. I really rate this guy as a footballer. 310,000 with an average of 84. Look, it's a bit of an awkward price point, isn't it? Because I doubt whether he's, well, I know that he's not going to be a keeper in our midfields, but he may be a little bit of a quick cash grab and make you 150k within sort of 4 to 5 weeks, possibly. So I'm not completely against Drew, but it's just a really, really awkward price point for me. Selwood is an absolute trap. Don't go near him. Chera, well, here's that budget option at Freo. 484,800. Average of 121, break even of 42. As I said, I probably like Brayshaw a little bit more, but Chera still averaging 121. You're getting him under 500k. He's looking to go up at least 25k this week if he can hit the ton. I think that he's also a buy now. If you're looking for someone around that price point, maybe you forgot or something happened last week and you weren't able to trade out Matty Real, this is an option that I think you could look really, really closely at. Zach Tui is a trap. Sloan, he's a bit of a pod, but yeah, Adelaide, aging premium, I'm just not quite sure. I just wouldn't go there myself. Sarong, a star of the future, but I'd be looking at Brayshaw or Chera above him. Now, LDU, he's a bit of an interesting selection, but look at that price point, 432, with an average of 96. Look, he'll make a little bit of money, but I just don't think he's going to be a keeper, and he doesn't have DPP status. If we could swing him into our forward line, for example, I'd be a big fan of this pick, but given the fact he's midfield only, you could have a really good season in general this year, but I don't think he's going to be too SuperCoach relevant. Baslenka didn't have a great round one. Lots of people actually, when I say lots of people, some people did jump on him pretty early, but look, there's so many stars that the doggies have running through there at the moment. I think he's got a really good role, and look, he's got the potential to average around that 105, but I like someone like a Chera a little bit better because I think he's got more of a friendly role. But Smith, even playing on the wing half forward, I still think can score really well, but I just wouldn't look to bring him into my side because I don't think he'll be a keeper. Same as Prestia and Taranto. Taranto was really disappointing, wasn't he, over the weekend? A bit of a butcher, had a wonderful first quarter from all reports. I think it was 10 possessions, but ended up with under 20, I think it was. Yeah, I just wasn't a fan of this bloke at all. You know, he's got an awkward price point. I didn't think he could be a keeper. After round one with that 107, people were pretty happy, but yeah, just not a fan of the Taranto pick. Simpkin isn't looking great also. Warple is a real pod. If you've got him, you simply need to sell him. And the same as Matty Real. Now, I've got the projected rise or projected fall for him, obviously, to be announced. He's only obviously played that one game. I should have mentioned, obviously, earlier on that I've only included players on this list that have played a minimum of 2 games. So those blokes have only played the 1 game. They'll enter the list in next week's stock market video. So, yeah, that pretty much does the midfielders 200 to 500k. Again, out of this list, Chera is someone that I think is an okay selection at that price point. And Drew is the other bloke that I would have a bit of a sneaky look at if for some odd reason you're looking at that price point of 310k. And on to the midfielders under 250k. Look at this man, Errol, up the top there, priced at 117,300. Over the first 2 weeks, he's given us an average of 138. Negative 206 for his break even. The projected score there, 138. I don't think that he's going to get to that. If he does for some reason, he's looking to rise 152k this week. Absolutely amazing. There's no way that this bloke can keep up that average, but is he going to be a keeper? I certainly don't think so. How long can he keep up this form? I really don't know, because I really think that opposition teams need to start to pay a lot of attention to this man, because he is super dangerous and deserves a lot of respect. So if you've been living on another planet during the preseason and you don't have this bloke in your side for some reason, do yourself a favour now, pause the video, log into your SuperCoach side and bring this man in literally for any player in your side. Get Errol in. He's the definition of an absolute must-have. James Jordan, I've been rap starting this bloke, 123,900 with an average of 80. I wouldn't call him a rookie pod, but there are a few coaches that didn't end up selecting James Jordan, and I think a little bit of that was due to his job security, with Viney, Brayshaw and these type of players to either come back or really hit form, but he's really safe at the moment and his job security is rock solid. A negative break even of 87, a projected score of 80, that's what he's averaged over the first 2 rounds. If he achieves that, he's looking to go up over 74k. He is an absolute buy now. Same as Sam Berry and Tom Powell, they are both buy nows. Berry the cheaper option there with the lower break even. He's looking to make a little bit more money. He could have hit the ton last week, Berry, if he had a kick straight. Missed 3 or 4 goals from memory. So I think he is a super selection Great job security with Matt Crouch out indefinitely at this stage. He'll hold his spot, I think, Sam Berry. So he is certainly a buy now if you haven't got him into your side or if you've missed out on him. Tom Powell, again a buy now. He's looking to go up 45k with a projected score of 64. I think he can get to that, and he's looking like a pretty good cash cow for us, as well as an on-field option. That's the beauty about the top 4 blokes you see on the list. They are all on-field options. Lockie McNeil, I'm not too sure about his job security, but again, he's 102k. You probably wouldn't look to bring this bloke into your side. Look, if McNeil gets named for round 3 and Scott doesn't, it's an option, but I'd still be loath to do that. Scott's still got that DPP status and may find his way back into the side. I'm just predicting this if it happens. I'm not necessarily saying it will, but if you find yourself in that situation, yeah, it's going to be an interesting call. Gyro is a real rookie pod. I don't know what his ownership is, but a projected score of 49 with that average of 45. He'll make you 30k, but I am worried about his job security. I may be wrong, but I think he may have been the medical sub. I'm not too sure. Don't quote me on that one. Tanner there, yeah, I've got the poo sign there, but job security looks okay. He's not going to score well. We knew that in the preseason when he kicked all those goals and still only scored around the 60, I think it was. And I thought to myself then, there's no way I can start this bloke. If he's kicking 3 goals and still only scoring that, then yeah, his ceiling isn't going to be too high. Lazaro, again, job security does concern me a little bit, but I have heard some good things from North supporters about him. I'm just a little bit unsure and wouldn't look to invest in him. And Dom Tyson, if you started with this guy, look, he's just a terrible footballer in my opinion. Get rid of him. Get rid of him now. I'm sure if you started with him, there's probably another guy on this list that you don't have, or else do some DPP. Just do something with him. Whether or not you can downgrade a Lachie Neale, for example, with that extra money, maybe get in a premium like a Brayshaw. Yeah, I'm just not too sure. But if you do have Dom Tyson, just get rid of the bloke, in my opinion. Now, I'm pretty much going to race through the rucks because if you've started with the set and forget strategy, then you're not going to deviate from that. And if you've started with the 1 premium, 1 rookie on field strategy, then you're also not going to deviate from that. So, Matty Flynn, he is clearly the best buy here, 112,500. Now, there is one interesting question that I think we need to talk about, and that is, what do you do if you have started with the set and forget strategy and you've selected Meek at R3 over Flynn at R3? Do you trade out Meek for Flynn? Look, it's a really tough one, isn't it? Because we've only got the one spot there, and Meek's still looking to go up 51,000. So it sounds a bit crazy in a way, doesn't it? That you've got someone there that's going up 51,000 and you're looking to trade him out before his first price rise. It sounds nuts, but you obviously look at Flynn there, and his average is 109 over that 63, and he's projected to go up twice as much as Meek. Now, Meek's probably got a little bit more competition for spots here as well, with Sean Darcy in the side. So, look, it's an interesting conundrum that you've got. At the same time, I've got the buy now there on Meek. Now, the only reason why I've got the buy now there on Meek is if you've started with Grundy or Gawn, you've paired them up with Flynn, and then you've got Hunter as your F3. I'd definitely go Meek over Paul Hunter. Yeah, look, it's a really tough one. What do you do with these rookie rucks? Well, hopefully you've started Flynn. I think most of us have. If you've got him, yeah, just enjoy the price rise. If you've got him on field, then that's also looking like a good move. Would I trade Meek to Flynn? Look, it's tough because I'm not in that position myself. Oh, maybe not. Maybe not, because the other thing you've got to take into account with Flynn is that he's coming up against Max Gawn and Brodie Grundy very, very soon. So, yeah, will that average of 109 absolutely plummet and get closer, to that 90, 80, 70 mark? Yeah, possibly, because he's got some stiff competition coming up. So I'd probably, as hard as it is, yeah, maybe stay away from that move. Look, yeah. Again, another thing to take into account, that projected score of 109, I doubt whether or not he's going to get 109 against Max Gawn. So taking into account that fact as well, I probably wouldn't make that trade Meek up to Flynn personally. But again, I'm not in that situation. Tom Fullerton, I think his job security has actually improved all of a sudden. Given the fact that Big O hasn't trained during the week, I don't think he'll play against Collingwood at least. Then Tom Fullerton's looking okay. McStay's still not fully fit at the moment. So for the short term, Fullerton keeps his spot. Look, I wasn't expecting him to be an overly great scorer, but he may find himself spending a little bit more time in the ruck than expected. So that average of 37 could increase, but yeah, I probably wouldn't buy into him. But if you've selected him, then it may not be the disaster that you were thinking it was, maybe last week. Steph Martin, I think he's actually a trap. So he's got a break even of 31. That looks pretty nice there, but look, he's sharing those duties with English. He's a really serviceable ruckman, and he's been a terrific pickup for the Dogs, but in a SuperCoach sense, I just don't think that he's going to be relevant enough to make enough money to be worth trading into him. If you started with him for some reason, it's sort of, it's not great in a way, because you could have started really with Flynn on field or Meek, because I doubt whether or not anyone's gone with Steph Martin as their R1. Lycett's a real pod, but again, wouldn't look at him. Big O won't play this week. Again, if you've got him, you may be able to hold him, but he's not looking great, to be quite honest. I must admit, he did soldier on. He got injured within the first couple of minutes of the game against Geelong, and I was actually at the match, as I've mentioned a couple of times, I think already. He could hardly run, and the effort that this big man put in, geez, I had a lot of respect for him. So respect Big O, but in a SuperCoach sense, not too great. Now, Sam Draper, this is a tough one. He's gone. I know a few teams have gone with Draper, and one of the reasons why I said do not start with someone like a Sam Draper at the start of the season is the fact that he's got such an awkward price point. What are you going to do with him now? The only option you've got is to find a fair bit of money and trade into someone like a Max Gawn or a Grundy, and you know that they're going to dip in price, or else you can go down to either a Meek, Flynn, Hunter type, I suppose. That's probably your only option, unless you've got a spare bit of money on the bank. But who else do you really go to, let's be honest, apart from Brodie Grundy or Max Gawn? You know, you're either going up, or right down. And if you're going right up, you know that you're losing money, so you probably have to go down on a Sam Draper, in my opinion. But pretty unlucky for owners there, but it was a risk that you were taking at the start of the season. Nick Nat, that durability is always going to be a concern, but didn't he look great over the weekend? You know, how many clearances did he have? I think it might have been 10 plus clearances. He just looks fantastic when he's in there, but his time on ground is always going to be pretty low, I think. Goldie, he's a trap, getting too old. I wouldn't go near him. And Grundy and Gawn, well, if you've kept the faith, congratulations, because last week they rewarded us with some pretty nice scores, but look, they are going to plummet in price. 210 there for Gawn and 175 for Grundy as a break even. But again, you just got to start with these blokes, I think. I'm not regretting it. After the first week, believe me, I was questioning my decision. But after round 2, that made me feel a bit more at ease anyway about the set and forget strategy. And Rob, he's been extremely disappointing. I've got Sell there. Look, again, it's easy for me to have Sell, because who do you go to? You know that Grundy and Gawn are going to lose money. But look, if you wait another week, he's going to be around that 520 mark. And then what do you do then? And then it'll be too late to jump on one of the rookie rucks. So again, it's a risk. You could probably keep the faith. There's probably no reason why you couldn't. But personally, I think he's a sell, given the fact that his average is 53. That's terrible. And he's looking to go down over 60k, and they're giving him a projected score of 84, which is 31 above his average so far. You could say that's generous. Other people could say, nah, look, he's certainly got to go around that 100 plus. He can't be going at a 53 average for 2 weeks. That's all about your personal projections, I think. But for me, I'd be selling him. Tough decision now if you're an owner. On to the forwards, 500k plus. I'll try to keep this video under an hour. Dusty, our man up the top, 541,600, an average of 139, break even of 39, projected score 103. He's looking to go up 28,200 this week. A high ownership player in over 65% of sides. I think he's the best buy, along with Josh Dunkley. I probably should have had the best buy on both of these blokes, but given the fact that, so many teams have Dusty at the moment, I obviously don't. I think I need to get him into my side, and he's looking like a man possessed at this stage. I think that he's going to be a really solid selection. We knew he's going to be a solid selection, but I just had no idea that he was going to start the season like this and really look as good as he does at the moment. Josh Dunkley is another bloke that you've just got to have in your side. No doubts about it. 560,200, an average of 123, break even of the 83 there. They think he'll go 111 this week and go up around 12k. But you need to get Dunkley and Dusty into your side, I think. Two must-haves in your forward lines this year. Non-negotiables, in my opinion. Dane Zorko, I've still got the trap on Zorko. Look, ill discipline is something I've been really disappointed with Zorko. He's given away, a couple of really silly 50 metres, some silly free kicks. Just undisciplined acts from our captain. And that durability for mine, with those lingering issues from last year that he may have to manage going into this year as well, will always concern me. Maybe some more midfield time, given the fact that Rain is out there and we haven't had the best start to the season. But for me, Zorko is a trap. I will not be going near him this year personally, unless we see some really solid and consistent form and some more discipline from Zorko. And the Tomahawk, 568,000. Look, this bloke's always going to be around the mark. I wouldn't look to invest in him at the moment. He's looking to go down in price, but an average of 96. He'll be around that marker, I think, for the rest of the season. And we know with Tommy Hawkins, he can easily pull a 190, 200 out of wherever he pulls it out of some weeks. But again, he's a key forward, and he can give you some of those stinkers as well. Onto the forwards, 200 to 500k. Really interesting price point this year, particularly in the forward line. And some names here that do need a little bit of discussion, I think. The man up the top there, Sexy Texie, as my best mate Brent calls him, Tex Walker, 298,200, an average of 145. Now, you couldn't have seen this coming, and if you say that you did see this coming, then you're an absolute liar, in my opinion. No one could have seen a 145 average in the first 2 weeks from Walker, but you look at the break even, negative 114, a projected score of 98. You may agree or disagree with that, but he's looking to go up over 90k just this week. So that's the reason why I have a buy now on him, because he's going to be a really quick cash grab, and at the same time, he's got a really outside chance, I think, of ending up even as your F6. Now, that's certainly a stretch, I think, and you know that I'm not a fan of key forwards if you followed me for the last year and a bit, but this is a bit of a different situation because we really need to look at this carefully. 145 average, even if he gets a 70-odd this week, he's still going to rise in cash for the next 3 weeks at least. So, with Walker, depending on your personal situation, I think this could actually be a smart move. And I can't believe I'm saying it, and I may end up sounding really, really silly in a couple of weeks' time, but I think possibly all you need is 2 to 3 weeks with Walker, and you can even look to move him on. So it's definitely a move that you should look seriously at, I think, this week. The next bloke, Switkowski, can't even pronounce his name. I had to give this man a bit of respect because if you look at the numbers there, 103 average for 279k, negative break even of 41. He's looking to go up 64k if he can hit the ton again this week. I can't give much info on this guy because I know nothing about him. But if you know a bit more about him, then he could be a massive pod, and this could be a huge move to make. I just, can't recommend it or give too much more about him. Jack Zeeble, well, lots of people have started with him. Do you bring him in this week if you haven't already started with him? Yeah, it's an interesting call. You'd probably look at someone else who I'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, it's a tough one if you haven't got him because there are some other options as well. Look, I suppose at that price point, I've still got him as a buy now, but yeah, it's just team dependent on whether or not you bring him in. But he'll be going up 40k even if he scores a 60. And remember, he was injured over the weekend, did come back onto the field, but that score may have been 5 to 10 points higher if he didn't miss out on that time on ground. Now, Tommy Atkins, he's a real pod this year. Congrats, George. You always managed to do something brilliant, mate. And I think this is a bit of a brilliant starting pick, Tommy Atkins. So under 300k, averaging 95, has a really good roll down there and a negative break even of 17. Now, 61 for a projected score, I think it's going to be pretty modest for him. And I think his floor is going to be higher than that Atkins. So at least an 80 plus. He'll go up about 40k, I think, this week. Now, at a stretch, he may be a potential keeper at F6. I'll probably don't think so, but look, you never know with someone like a Tommy Atkins. Actually, looking at that, if you look at these four blokes up the top, pretty similar price points, particularly, well, you look at Walker and Atkins, that's, probably a question for another day, because as I said, I want to get through this in under an hour, but that could be a decision that people are making even. Like, you look at an Atkins and a Walker, exactly the same price. Walker's obviously that quick cash grab, but Atkins I like a lot better as a player and his role. So, do you go Atkins or a Walker? I don't know if anyone's going to be making that decision, or, who would I go? Well, it depends what you prioritise. Cash gen or, potential keeper status, I think. I'm not too sure. Team dependent. Dure, not interested in, to be quite honest. Now, Butters, I am interested in. I said at the start of the season, and look, I was close to selecting this bloke. I'd basically nailed it down to 2 pod selections in my forward line. That was either going to be Zach Bailey or Zach Butters. In the end, I tried to go a little bit safer than that. And what I said about Butters was I want to give him 4 to 5 weeks, see how he goes, and if he starts off like a house on fire, is looking to actually fulfill that potential in that role this year, then I'll probably just pay a little bit more for that safety net and then jump on him then. In saying that, I think he's a really good selection this week. He certainly does have a little bit of risk attached with him, but what I like about Bud is he's playing in a great side. I suppose what I don't like is his opposition over the last couple of weeks. He again looked really good against Adelaide in the preseason, but again, he was playing against Adelaide, so that's a tough thing with Bud is we haven't really seen him play against some quality opposition in a little while now. So will he keep that average of 130? I highly doubt it, but look, he may average a 110 this year at best. And at worst, I think it's probably an 85 at worst. So probably hover in somewhere around there. But you need to seriously look at him because he's a damaging player, doesn't need a lot of the ball to have a big impact on the game and score well. But given the fact that he actually is getting a lot more of the ball, then everything points to this bloke having a real breakout season. And he's not a must-have at this stage, but he may prove to be a must-have after we've seen him in action in another 2 to 3 weeks, I think. Nick Hind, a real pod type pick. I had a little bit of a sneaky look at him in the preseason, but at that price point, 331, look, he may be a direct swap for Caldwell. That could be an option for you, I suppose, if you're looking to go there. Heaney, his forward line always worries me, but look, I think the ball will be in the forward line a little bit more for Sydney this year. He's looking pretty good, Heaney, but he's a type of bloke that will go up for one of those high marks, land awkwardly, and then miss 2 to 3 weeks, Heaney. So not for me, but if you started him, you'd be pretty happy so far. Stevenson, I've got him as an absolute trap there. I just don't like this pick. Look, I think he's a talented player, but we haven't really seen him in this role before. He said himself that Collingwood just never gave him the opportunity in the midfield. And look, he may be a selection that we could look at next year, the year after that, possibly. But at this stage, certainly don't jump on him whatsoever. Caldwell, he's injured. You've got to trade him. Bailey, I still like this bloke as a pod, but I think he'll be possibly a little bit too inconsistent. Jordan Goey, the NDHP policy, keep a lookout on him, but he'll have his good games, have his bad games. Tom Phillips, I talked a lot about this bloke in my round review. I think he's on the chopping block this week because he's an absolute butcher of the ball, or from what I saw last week, he just absolutely butchered it. Did make good decisions, and I think probably a bit of a fake premium. I may have been trapped into the fact that he's been promised a little bit more of that inside midfield time. But I do speak a little bit more about Phillips in my round review. And Shai Bolton, a bit of a nothing pick, I think. Bolton, 462,000. He'll hover around that sort of 450 mark. Again, we'll have some good games. We'll have some poorer games. Really rate him as a player, but not really as a SuperCoach selection. And we'll finish off now with the forwards under 250k. Chatty Warner, I love this bloke. Again, talked about him a lot in my round review, but if you don't have him, I think he is a buy now for sure. Close to a must-have, I think, at his price. Super job security, got a really friendly role there. He's dangerous, he's exciting. Jump on the Warner train. And here's a rookie that some people did miss. Most of us have Campbell, don't really need to talk about him. Just make sure you start him on field. Jarman Impey. Now, there are a few coaches that do not have Jarman Impey, and Yeah, do I call him a must-have? Pretty close to at that price, I think. I love his role. We know that he's best 22. He's averaged okay in that role before, but we know what's happening in the back line this year. Yeah, absolutely love him as a selection. Look, I wouldn't be moving heaven and earth to get him, but if you've got the opportunity to get him and you don't have to sacrifice too many other things in your side, then I'd certainly do it without hesitation. He's looking to go up over 50k as well. Same as James Rowe, 50k. Maybe not non-field option, but still, he's going to make us some really good money in the short term. Logan McDonald, this guy is a super player. I've already mentioned a lot of the, over the last week or two that Sydney have absolutely killed that draft, but do you trade into him or Impey? I probably trade into Impey, I think, because he's got a more friendly role. And, first year key forwards can be a little bit inconsistent, but he's a little bit of a different beast, Logan McDonald there at the moment. Ruckman, yeah, really happy that this bloke bounced back to form. I still think that you buy him if you haven't got him and you've got maybe someone like a Sharp that may be getting dropped this week, for example, or you've selected, you've still got someone like an Oliver Henry, for example, that you need to get rid of. He's not on this list because he's only played the one game, obviously. So there are reasons to get him in if you haven't already got him, I suppose. Scott, not sure about his job security. Bergman, I think he's got okayish job security, but had a terrible first half, a better second half. But yeah, I don't think he's going to be an overly good rookie. Dow, I think I was trapped into him. Just not a good footballer, I don't think. They'd be pretty disappointed. What was he? Pick 3, I think, from memory. But look, good with his hands. Really good with his hands, but just can't use the football by foot and a bit of a poor decision maker. So, look, it's not going to be the worst thing in the world. His break-even's only 6, and he's going to make us some cash. But, if he can get to 300k, I'll be pretty happy, to be quite honest. Joey Danaher, look, it may take a little while for him to get his synergy with the rest of his teammates, but he's okay. Break-even of 10, projected score of 62. Again, he'll make some pretty good cash in the short term. Again, with some really nice job security, but yeah, you'd much rather an Impey in your side, I think, at this stage over Danaher. Harrison Jones, well, yeah, he's a bit of a pooey rookie, but good job security, I think. Well, yeah, really good job security, I think, this year, Harrison Jones, but just don't expect him to be scoring you anything good. Don't field him. He is a bench option and will be a little bit of a slow burn, I think. If you've got Nettie Carl, you need to get rid of him. Downgrade him to any rookie that's playing, basically, because he's looking to actually lose money. He's got a break-even of 42. His average is only 26, so just get rid of him. There was a little bit of hype about him during the preseason, but no good, Nettie Carl. And Trey Rusco, he's been an absolute disaster. Look, I don't know if anyone's actually selected this bloke, and I wouldn't see why you would have with all the other options that we've got. But if you are one of the few, maybe I could probably count the amount of owners on my hands. I'm not too sure. But if you've got Rusco, get rid of him. Again, same vice as Carl. Just go down to anyone. And that's it from me for now, guys. Hope that this video helped you in some small way with your trading decisions this week. Good luck with everything. Look, I'll just leave with some closing advice, and this advice is make sure you get your rookies right. That should be your number one priority because cash gen is king. If you don't get the rookies right at the start of the season, then you're not going to have enough money to be able to upgrade to premiums during the year. So that should be your number one priority. Make sure that you've got all the rookies in your team that I had with the buy it now or best buy symbol next to them. If you're in a lucky position where you do already have all the must-have rookies, then you can afford, I think, to trade 1 or 2 premiums, those underperforming premiums in your side. For me, that's going to be Lachie Neale and Tom Phillips, because luckily I have selected all of the must-have rookies, in my opinion, anyway, this year. Who am I looking to go to? Well, at this stage, it's going to be via some DPP, Neale to Jordan Ridley, and then Phillips, who I think I've been a little bit trapped into, to Dusty Martin. I think he's a must-have also. If I don't go down that route, it's going to be Neale to Jack McRae, and then take a little bit more of a risk on that breakout contender and go Phillips up to Zachy Butters. But probably option 1 for me at the moment, and that's what most of the feedback I received from my round review video as well. And thanks to everyone for commenting on that and giving me your thoughts on which trade I should go with also. So I will leave it there, guys. I think we're almost on an hour, or just above an hour, I think. Thanks again for joining me. Thanks to all the new people that have made their way onto the channel during the last month or two. Really appreciate your support, guys. I'll see you soon in the next one. Take care and good luck. Bye.